Hello, I'm Kurt Hyde, and we're going to talk about the proper use of a steel. We're talking more about maintaining a sharp knife than we are about sharpening a knife. Because we can always get a sharp knife. You can buy a brand new knife and they come sharp. You could always have your knife professionally sharpened, or maybe you're a skilled sharpener yourself. But today we're going to talk about maintaining our knife and keeping it sharp for a long time. There are two primary steels that professional meat cutters use. A rough steel, often called a sharpening steel, and it is very sharp. The edges on it are very sharp. It has lines cut in the steel, and when you rub a knife on there, it'll actually take off metal. Okay, and then there is the smooth steel, and it's very smooth. It's called a polished steel. This is the most common steel used. So when we have a rough steel, we'll talk for just a moment about a rough steel, and then we'll talk a little bit more about our smooth steel. We have a pretty beat up knife from our kitchen, and that's what a rough steel is. It's a sharpening steel. And there's not much in between. It's either really sharp lines and a sharpening steel, or they're smooth. Something in between isn't all that effective. So we have some burrs on our knife here. And what that comes from is just from use, or if your knife gets a little beat up, your leading edge of your knife will be rolled over quite a bit. Okay, and it'll be rolled over all the way along your edge of your knife. Okay. So when it's rolled over, what that rough steel or sharpening steel will do is it will cut that burr off. I call that a burr. That when I was clicking with my thumbnail is that wrong burr. So a rough steel or sharpening steel will cut that off. Here's how we use it. We put a lot of pressure on a sharpening steel, and it will actually take off metal. We go about 4 or 5 strokes, fairly hard, and then we'll take a pretty beat up dull knife and make it reasonably sharp in a very short time. Now if we have a razor sharp knife, we don't want to use it on a rough steel, because it'll take this razor sharp knife and it'll bring it down to reasonably sharp, and we don't want that. Okay, we want to maintain that really sharp razor knife, and we do that with a smooth steel. So this smooth steel is the most common steel used in commercial meat cutting. This is what they use in the big packing houses like Green Bay Packing, Dubuque, Swift, all the big packing houses in the US. They all use a smooth polished steel because they all have a very sharp knife. If they don't have a really sharp knife, they have tendonitis and things don't go well. So they've learned to use very sharp knives, and to maintain it, we use a smooth steel. So here's what we're going to do. It's smooth. It doesn't seem like it does much. Some people watch me use a smooth steel and they say, boy, how can that do anything, because it's so smooth. And here's how it works. Our leading edge of our knife is very thin and very fine because it's sharp. So after we cut for 5 or 10 minutes, it rolls over just a little bit. And what our steel does is straightens that edge out. Okay, now if we would continue cutting for an hour without using our steel, our fine leading edge would roll over a lot, and now it's not going to recover as well. It'll still recover a little bit using our steel, but it won't recover as well. That's why we want to use it every 5 or 10 minutes, just a couple strokes, and that's all you need to straighten out that edge. So here's how we use it. I prefer holding it like this. Just a couple nice easy strokes is all we need. You can use it like this and stroke away from you, or you can put it straight down and just stroke it down. Okay, one of the keys to making your steel work best is to hold it at the right angle. And we're going to hold it at just a little steeper angle than what the bevel is. And we stroke down. And alternate. Always alternate. Don't go 2 or 3 strokes on one side and 2 or 3 on the other side. Always alternate. And also, one of the little glitches I see new people when they use a steel is sometimes they start out with the right angle, and as they stroke down, they flatten their knife out, so the leading edge of the knife isn't touching the steel. So be careful that you don't start out nice and flatten out. You want to maintain that angle all the way down, and always alternate sides. Okay? Now I cut 25 or 30 deer between sharpenings. Okay, because I have a good quality knife, and it's mainly because I use a steel often. That's what maintains my sharp edge for 20 or 30 deer. However, after about 15 or 20 deer, my knife isn't quite as sharp as it was before, and we can be a little more aggressive on our steel then. So we can take 1 or 2 really hard strokes on our smooth steel and then soften it up. Always finish up really soft. Really soft. Okay. And now obviously we need to start with a good quality knife. I use a Victorinox 40515, and you can buy these on my website or they're all over online, and it's about a $20 to $30 knife. Some people have seen my YouTube video where I debone a deer in 8 minutes, and on that video I scrape the bone a lot, and some people have given me a hard time for that. They say, don't keep scraping the bone, it's a good way to ruin your knife. I can tell you for a fact that if scraping bone dulls your knife, you need a better knife, because it's important to scrape the bone when you cut, because that's how you break that membrane from the meat to the bone, and it's easier to cut that way. So anyway, if you use a good knife, you won't have to worry about scraping bone. You can scrape bone all day long, it doesn't dull your knife. Now, one thing about your smooth steel, it's a polished smooth steel, it will tarnish or rust if we don't take care of it. So if it does, we take some 400 or 600 grit emery cloth and just stroke it straight up and down until it's shiny and polished again. So in summary, use a sharpening steel or a rough steel for a dull knife. Use a polished steel or a smooth steel to maintain a sharp knife for a very long time. And for a tip of the month, cutting supplies, instructional DVDs or seasonings, go to highwellgame.com, or if you have questions, email me through the website and I'll answer any question you have about steels, sharpening knives, cutting deer, or anything. Good luck hunting this fall, and God bless you.